Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matt Feldhouse, and for those who did not join us last week, I am excited to be the new director of DAV Patriot Boot Camp. I'm a veteran myself with over a decade of social service experience and my own entrepreneurial fitness ventures under my belt. Today, I am your host for Caffeine Connect, our monthly series where entrepreneurs share their stories, insights, and expertise. Join us for real talk, actionable advice, and inspiration to fuel your business journey. From startup struggles to success strategies, Caffeine Connect can be your go-to resource for veteran-led entrepreneurship. Tune in and let's get connected. Today, we're joined by Chandler Lyles, a past speaker at our last cohort and a great friend to DAV Patriot Boot Camp. After my brief introduction of Chandler, he will take the reins. I invite you to pop any questions you have into the chat or post them on our socials. We will make sure to save plenty of time at the end for Q&A with Chandler. All right, let's get into it. Chandler Lyles has spent the last 15 years helping entrepreneurs grow. In the Air Force, he helped small business owners secure over $50 million in government contracts. Wow. Then he used a simple marketing strategy to grow his family's barbecue business from a roadside tent to multiple locations. Today, as co-founder of High Beam Marketing, his team has helped drive over $1 billion in revenue for hundreds of different brands. Wow, Chandler, I'm really excited. I mean, you have such the background for a topic on marketing. I can't wait.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to be here. Thank you guys for inviting me back again.
The floor is yours.
All right, well, let's share a screen here and we'll jump right in. All right. Everybody can see that okay? So,
Yes, you're good to go.
as many of you may know, if you've been around the last few cohorts, I've told the story about how my first business was a barbecue restaurant. And I love to start with that story just so you guys know that even though I own an agency today, I understand your pain. Like I've been where you've been. My mom and dad and I started that barbecue restaurant with literally $5,000, a tent on the side of the road, and a smoker. And we had zero money outside of that for anything like marketing. We did that tent on the side of the road for about a year and just really stumbled along, and we just tried to figure it out as we go. I feel like so many of you out there would have the same sort of experience if you're bootstrapping your thing from zero. But you can see here on this slide, we finally got into our first brick and mortar location. And now this is a location that is very hard to see from the road. So I didn't really know what I was doing when I was picking locations. This 4-lane highway that you can see here is where everybody's supposed to go 55, but they really do 80 and they're just whipping by. And that stoplight you see is really optional. I did not see a lot of people stop at that, especially when it was yellow. It felt like the drag race had just begun. And then on the right side of the building, there is a hotel where I've seen more shady things happen than I care to admit. And of course, we're just connected to a regular gas station and a liquor store. So as far as location trifecta goes, I think we managed to miss every single thing you want in a good restaurant location. And when we ended up getting this location, that presented a very unique problem for us. Nobody wanted to come. And this actually came to fruition one day. I had social media going for us. It was a free marketing tool. And I was just trying desperately to do everything I could to get people to come in. And we had kind of done a pretty good job of creating good looking content and taking nice pictures of our food. And barbecue is kind of easy to sell online. Everybody loves to see smoked meat. This guy, he DMs me one night and he says, "Hey man, I just need to let you know that we were going to come eat with you, but we pulled into the parking lot and we didn't feel good about the location. It felt really weird and shady. And so we were not able to come. Like, I'm not going to be able to eat with you guys ever. I just thought you should know." And I think he was trying to give me helpful feedback. It was a little bit rude. It hurt my feelings a little bit. I think as entrepreneurs, anybody that tells you business isn't personal has never actually done business, because business is incredibly personal and it matters to you. But once I put my ego to the side and I kind of let my bruises heal a little bit, I messaged the guy back and I said, "Hey man, I'm so sorry that you feel that way. We'd obviously love a chance to prove you wrong, and to build a relationship with you." And so I sent him a like $25 gift card or something. And I said, hey, dinner's on us. Next time you come in, just give us this gift card and we'll make it happen. Like, I just want you to come in and try it. And so we were trying to use the power of social media for one-on-one community building and development. And the guy ended up coming in, and I ended up meeting him, and he apologized for sending the message. And he said, hey, man, I just wanted to help, and I didn't really know how else to do it. He loved the food. And the cool part of that story is that guy became a loyal customer of ours and ended up eating with us several times. And that was kind of my first instinct, the first real instance where all of a sudden I realized, like, oh, you can market your business when you have a lot of time to do things like social media, but you don't necessarily have a lot of budget to do things like Highbeam does now, where we run ads for people. And so that's what I ended up figuring out. So eventually we did more and more. We opened up multiple locations of that business. We got a ton of local press coverage from that business because of the marketing strategies I'm going to share with you today. We ended up getting my mom featured on a couple different television shows, which was really cool because we branded her as Mama Lyles. We ultimately ended up on this show called The Prophet on CNBC, where we ended up doing a deal with Marcus Simonis, and I actually got a job with Marcus to go handle marketing for one of his food brands. And all of this was possible simply because, we knew how to market ourselves when we didn't have a huge budget. We knew storytelling, and we did the things that I'm going to share with you today. There's really nothing, I have nothing to sell. Like, we own an agency here at Highbeam, like they talked about in the intro. This, we don't sell the stuff I'm going to show you today. This stuff is all what we do to market ourselves. But we don't have anything to sell. This is the best pitch I got for you to go build your business. And I want to start this off with, who is your competition? And before we get too into it, I want to encourage everybody to drop questions into the chat as we're going, because we're going to have some time for Q&A at the end. And I think that those questions are really good for us to get really one-on-one with your business and get very specific, because what we're going to talk about today is kind of a broad generality. You're going to have the basic framework. This plan is going to get you, let's call it 80% of the way to where you're trying to be. Your job is going to take your expertise and take it to the last 100%. You're going to add the nuance to your own thing and get you to where you want to go. So if you have questions, put them in the chat. We'll be happy to answer them here in a minute. So we'll start with, who is your competition? Now, you may think that your competition is somebody who does something you do. Maybe they're more established, maybe they're bigger, maybe they've been around longer, but that's not true. Your competition is not who does what you do. Your competition is everybody who wants your customers' attention. We are officially in the attention economy, and that is the name of the game, is how do you get more attention? And there's way more competition out there than you actually think there is. This is a survey that's put out by domo.com every single year, and it's called Every Minute of the Day. And essentially, every minute of every single day in 2025, there's 5.9 million Google searches, 140 million reels played on Facebook and Instagram, 251 million emails sent, and 16,000 TikTok videos uploaded every single minute. So when you think about competition, like, you don't realize how much competition there is out there. You are competing with all of this noise. In fact, you're also competing with ad spend. We're projected to get around $734 billion this year alone in digital ad spend across the world. So this previous slide here, this is all the organic stuff that's going out. This is free stuff that anybody can send. But now you have brands that are paying to play, spending over $700 billion to play. This is a hard thing you're getting ready to do when you're marketing your business with no money. So I'm just trying to level set expectations here, that if you expect this to be a magic bullet and that you're going to post one time a week and not really spend a lot of time doing this, like, you are going to end up very disappointed. Humans, your customers, they're making 35,000 decisions every single day, and they're only aware of 70 of them. So what that means, and all that noise and all that stuff that's happening out there in the market, you're basically competing for one of the 70 decisions here, especially when you're talking about getting new customers, because they haven't really defaulted yet to a operating system where they just choose to do business with you because they know you, like you, and trust you. You're trying to introduce your brand to them and hope that you're one of these 70 decisions that actually gets made during the day, and that they don't just default, go with some other option. And the worst thing is that once you actually get their attention and you become one of those 70 decisions, we call this next problem is the 95-5 rule, which means that 95% of the market is not ready to buy your thing yet, and 5% is. So even if you get their attention and you've done all the hard work, you're still going to have this other hurdle to climb, which is most of the market's not going to actually want to buy what you sell yet. And that's a brutal realization for people that are doing this for the first time. But if you can accept that that's how this game is played, you can become a very good marketer for your business. And this is the first tip I'll share today. Have the right mindset and set aside an uncomfortable number of hours every single day to work on marketing your business. So many people don't spend enough time advertising their company. One of my business idols is Ted Turner, and he had a famous quote where he said, "Early to rise, work like hell, and advertise." And I think that we're really good at waking up early and getting after it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be entrepreneurs. I think we're really good at working hard. I think most of us really struggle with advertising because we don't want to be boastful. It's the what is the old saying? Like, the tall head gets cut or something like that. Like, nobody wants to stand out, but if you're going to build a successful brand, you're going to have to try to stand out. You're going to have to get comfortable. To be transparent with you, I don't love having to get on here and talk and try to teach marketing and all that stuff. I love teaching marketing, but there's a part of me that feels like this is bragging. There's a part of me that feels like, oh, do I really have to talk about the stats of what we've delivered at High Beam Marketing and the thing I did with the barbecue? Like, I have to do all those things because most of you guys don't know who I am. And so I have no credibility. So I have to advertise my services. I have to advertise myself as an educator in the marketing space. I have to advertise that I'm a marketing expert. And so you're going to have to do the same thing inside of your business. You're going to have to advertise that you are good at either the service you provide or the product you sell. And that brings me to the next point here. The best products don't win. And you can substitute products here for services if you're in a service business. It's the best known products or services that win. Got to advertise. So how do we do that? We have to create an influence with people. And I've boiled this down to a really simple marketing formula because people try to make marketing really complicated. But at the end of the day, it's really not. How much attention you have on your brand multiplied by the emotions you make people feel about your brand equals the amount of influence that you have as a company. Now, influence can be getting somebody to sign up for an email list. Influence can be getting somebody to share your message with somebody else. Influence can be getting somebody to come in and buy from you for the first time. But to get influence, you have to be aware of something. You have to feel some sort of way about it. And then you'll be willing to go take an action on it. So how do we do this? How do we actually build attention and emotion so that we get ultimately more sales, which is what we're all trying to do here? This is the influence funnel, or the flywheel, actually, for High Beam Marketing. And today we're going to really focus in on the influence funnel portion of this flywheel. Now, we like flywheels over just funnels because flywheels are, well, let's start with the funnel. The funnel, if all you're doing is a marketing funnel, you're basically trying to drop as many people as possible into the top of the funnel and hoping that they get out of the bottom of the funnel and they become customers. But the problem is when they fall out of the bottom, they just fall out and there's nothing left there. When you do a flywheel like this, you're building momentum with your customers. You're focused on the long game with your customers. You want lifetime value with your customers, not just a one-time transaction. And so that's why we have branding, a sales funnel, which is the influence funnel. How do we retain the customers that we get, and how do we get them to buy more and more often with word of mouth marketing? But today we're going to talk about this influence funnel. So the influence funnel is basically broken down into the social showrunner system. Now, I call it a social showrunner system because social media is simply modern day television. And if you don't believe me, I'll show you here. I grew up watching This Old House with my dad all the time. And this morning when I was doing some research on this talk, I found KLK Builds on TikTok doing renovation. DIY real estate guy. He has his own company and he's got, 30,000 views. So he's doing really well. He's just doing his version of This Old House, but he's doing it on TikTok. Or you have, Guy's Big Bite has over 20 seasons on Food Network. This is a guy named Chud's Barbecue. He's doing his own cooking shows on Instagram. And I think this reel had like 50,000 views or something like that. And I'm a 90s baby, so I grew up with Legends of the Hidden Temple on Nickelodeon. But that seems a lot like Mr. Beast and his game shows that he runs on his YouTube channel, which get, hundreds of millions of views each time. And Mr. Beast was able to use all this influence to launch his candy bar brand Feastables, and they're a $100 million brand already. So you can do this. We can all do this, which is great. It just makes it all a lot more difficult because there's a lot more competition. So understanding how television used to work, a network would spend a lot of money every year during pilot season, and they would try to create new shows that everybody would fall in love with. Think, MASH or Friends or The Big Bang Theory. They didn't really know if those shows would work or not, but their whole point was to get a new show out there that would create a loyal audience, which would bring in eyeballs that they can then sell as advertisements to marketers like me in those yellow ad breaks. Well, digital media, is the same exact way. The feed is, instead of horizontal on a TV, it's now vertical in your hand on your phone. And so what you'll see is user-generated content, user-generated content, user-generated content, an ad. And that cycle will repeat over and over and over and over again. The social showrunner system is built to help your content show up in all of those blue squares. And the reason we want to show up in those blue squares is because that creates awareness for your brand, attention for your brand. And if the content is good and the storytelling is good, that now creates a positive emotion with your brand, which then, going back to the formula, is the influence you need to be able to go out and sell more products and services. So I want to break down these algorithms. So when you look at this, these feeds are created by an algorithm, and algorithms are either they're either follower-based heavy or they're interest-based heavy. All social media used to be follower-based. It basically was that that's where the term social media comes from. It was your social network. You tended to follow friends and family and connect with them on like a Facebook. And then when you go to log into Facebook, on your wall, you would just see pictures of what your dad had for breakfast, or what your aunt was doing with her dog on her farm, or so on and so on and so on. Versus now, we've all shifted to an interest-based algorithm. And what that means is it's more about what you as a person like. So for me, I love sports. I love barbecue. And so when you go on my social media feed, you'll see a lot of sports videos. You'll see a lot of barbecue. I'm a big business guy, so I'll see a lot of business content. And the algorithm is constantly looking for signs to see, what do I like as a user? And their whole goal is to keep you on the platform as long as possible. And so when you're making content, you got to think, how do I keep people on this platform for as long as possible? We're all in an interest-based algorithm world now. And when you hear the word algorithm, I want you to just think human. Algorithm is just an amalgamation of millions and millions of humans together. That's all an algorithm is. It's not some mythical boogeyman that's trying to keep you from getting attention with your customers. An algorithm is just simply the scoreboard for whether or not people in the world think the content you make is good. And this is a shocking note that tends to get people to groan a little bit when I tell them this. The average person spends around 2.5 hours every single day on social media. And I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. A lot of people try to vilify it, but I think there's always been this need for humans to be very productive throughout the day and then to kind of disconnect and relax at night. And so don't think of social media as some big, huge negative thing. Think about it as the current marketplace for attention. When we were in tribes, it was around the fire pit. As everybody talked about their day. When the radio was invented, it was all of us sitting around radios listening to the nightly news. Same thing with TV. All of a sudden, it was a couple hours of TV every night. And now with social media, we just all veg out and watch social media at the end of the night as we unwind. And so your job as a content creator now, as a business owner that is also a content creator, is to get your content to show up when those people are vegging out and create educating stuff that they actually want to see. Which platform should you post on? My advice here is it sort of depends. My general advice is that you should pick one platform. I wouldn't really worry about trying to hit every single one of these platforms up. The example I'm going to show you today is a way to post on one and then make sure you're posting on every single platform that's out there. But really, what you should do is try to pick one. So like, let's say you picked Instagram. Don't worry about all the other platforms. Let it burn. Just figure out how to get customers or leads from one platform at a time, and you'll greatly increase the chance that you're successful with your social media marketing plan. If you're going to be running a B2B business, I think YouTube is the best place to be, by the way. If you're running a B2B service business, YouTube especially is the best place to be. If you're a direct-to-consumer brand, I think you have a really strong shot for entertainment on platforms like Instagram and TikTok. So I think if I was going to start a brand from scratch, if I was going to become a business partner with anybody out there watching today, and you're like, Chandler, which one should we be on? I'd probably try to figure out, are we a B2B service business first, or are we a direct-to-consumer product business? And then depending on that, then I would pick one of those three platforms. Those are the biggest ones now. They get the most watch time every single day. I think YouTube and TikTok alone, their users are watching those platforms up to 2 hours a day. Instagram is somewhere around 30 minutes to 40 minutes, which is nothing to sneeze at, but it's not as much as 2 hours, which is what YouTube and TikTok are. And there's some things with TikTok in the news always potentially getting sold. Is it going to be around? Is it not? I don't really care, or I don't really try to predict what's coming down the pipe. I just react to the market as it shows up. I try to be one news day late to everything, so I don't overreact to anything, but I'm not late to reacting to anything. So if TikTok sells and the attention completely falls off that platform, then I'll stop recommending it. You cannot be, you have to be very agnostic when it comes to these social media platforms, because it could be here today and gone tomorrow. The next big thing could be right around the corner. So, don't fall in love with any of them, but always be aware that they could disappear at any time. So in the social showrunner system, you have two jobs. Job number one is to be the showrunner, and job number two is to be the talent. So the showrunner's job is to essentially do everything around the show. You're going to be planning, you're going to be producing, you're going to be editing, you're going to be publishing, you're going to be reacting, you're going to be doing everything. And that's where 90% of the work is in the showrunner section. The talent side of things is literally just being on screen, talking for 2, 3, 4 minutes, however long that piece of content is that you're making, and then stopping the record button. That's all the talent does. Everybody I talk to when they're first getting into social media, they get very overwhelmed by the thought of having to be on camera. And while I understand that it is a weird thing to do, to see yourself on a camera for the first time, eventually you get used to it and it's not as big of a deal. What ends up being the biggest deal long term is how much time and effort it takes to be the showrunner, the person that does all this stuff. If you're looking on this side here, identifying the ideal customer, making sure your recon is up to date, your styling of the content is up to date, you have a clear roadmap for what you're planning out. How are we going to script, shoot, and edit this thing? And then how ultimately we're going to publish it? That is 90% of the work. And so when I'm telling you that you're going to have to set aside minimum 2 hours a day to work on this, like that's why, because 90% of your job is going to be all these not fun things, what they call plumbing work. It's essentially you put the plumbing in the walls of the house. Nobody ever gets to see it. But the talent gets all the attention, right? Because that's what we see and that's what we connect with. But without the showrunner, the talent doesn't matter. So to start with, you do recon. And I love recon because I don't want to reinvent the wheel. Art is not original, art is influenced. And that's the same thing for social media. Your social media content is going to be influenced by what's already working out there in the market. Study what is working from other brands. And then once you start to see, so what I do, I might go on Instagram and I'll go into the search bar and I'll look up marketing terms. And then I'll see a whole bunch of content that comes up. And then I just start scrolling around and seeing what sticks out to me. What am I finding interesting? And then I click into it. And then I try to break down, what do I like about this? What do I not like about this? Why did this stand out? What are the comments that are coming up on this video? How many shares and likes did this video get? I'm trying to get as much data from each video that stands out as possible so that I can influence my own content later on. And I track all that in a spreadsheet just like this. So it's like, what's the core idea of the video? What's the content bucket that it's in? What's the actual link to the video so that I can go reference it later? And then a whole bunch of other things that come after that. And this is sort of you're just gathering a lot of fodder. You're just trying to collect a lot of information so that when you go to do the planning stage here in a minute, you've got something to pull from. I think what happens with people getting overwhelmed with social media a lot of the times is you get creator's block, or writer's block is the more proper term for that, where it's like, I don't know what to shoot today. I literally just had a call with somebody who was a DAV Patriot Boot Camp alumni. We had a call for an hour yesterday and we went through her social media feed. And that was the big pain point, was like, she was like, we're posting 3 or 4 times a day, but the hardest thing is I sit down to try to figure out what to do. And I just don't know what to do. And it takes me way longer than it should. And the reason why we found out was because she was skipping the recon phase. She was not doing the proper amount of planning. She was just going out there freewheeling it, and it wasn't working out for her. She kept running into this roadblock. So recon is going to give you a huge pool of ideas to be able to choose from. Style of content starts like this. And style of content is, how do we present the idea that we have for this video? Now, there's 2 main buckets here. There's education and there's entertainment. Education content, like we talked about earlier, it's really more for the B2B people. Like B2B stuff I've learned with High Beam Marketing. This is a B2B company. People want content like this right here. I want an hour of education. I don't need a lot of entertaining stuff. Like maybe you give me a fun barbecue story here or there, but I need to be educated. And what that education does is essentially is proving that you are a thought leader, a trusted expert in this space, somebody that I can give money to be able to provide a service, because there's not really a good way to show the service in the B2B space. But if you can teach around your service, that's a huge brand builder with social media. BDC stuff, entertainment is huge. Basically, you have a bunch of characters. The product tends to be another character in the show. The example I'll talk about here in a little bit is when we branded my mom as Mama Lyles and we made her own cooking show. You know, that green target right in the middle. That was the blend of entertainment and education, that edutainment. That show, it was her being entertaining because she's a fun character on show trying to cook, yipping with me behind the camera as a producer. So there was some like friction there. But then there was education in there. It was like 80% entertainment and 20% education because we were teaching you how to make whatever the recipe was that we were making that day. So you kind of have these two lenses as you're thinking about your own style of content. And then you have the actual format of the content that you would make. So frequently asked questions is a great type of content to make. You can do that in B2C or B2B. Think about it in the barbecue example, it would be, how do you smoke brisket? I can make a video about that. In the B2B side of things, this presentation right here came out of a frequently asked question, which is, how do I market my business when I have no money to market my business? That is exactly what we're doing here. This is a frequently asked question piece of content. And then you can see everything else here. Trends and news is content. Trends and news is great. And it can be a nice little pop for views and impressions today. The problem with that stuff is that there's not a lot of evergreenness to it. It kind of dissipates over time. The importance of that thing fades. How to, again, how do I do something specifically? A versus B. Does this piece of equipment work better than this piece of equipment? Case study, what results have you delivered for your clients? At the barbecue restaurant, the example would be a testimonial video of somebody with a wedding, and we just have them film really quick to say how much they loved having us cater their wedding. So yeah, there's all these videos here. As you go out and do your recon, and you'll start to see these styles manifest themselves. I did not invent any of these styles. I did my own recon when I was putting this system together. And this is what came up time and time and time again as the most popular ways to create content. This is a really quick side note here that I don't actually address. This presentation is very heavily focused on video. I would say that 80 to 90% of your content needs to be video based and 10 to 20% needs to be photo based. 10 years ago, when I was doing the barbecue restaurant, it was 90% photos and pictures because that's the way the algorithms worked. Now it is video, and a lot of it is vertical, and a lot of it is short, minute-long things. So that may not be what's working 5 years from now, but as of right now, when you're watching this in 2025, short-form vertical video is the best way to get the most out of your organic reach. And the next thing here is the roadmap. So we've done all this research with Recon, and we figured out what kind of styles we see on the market, and now we need to put it all together in a plan. This is how we avoid that writer's block, that creator's block that I was talking about earlier. So here's a sample content planner if I was to have the barbecue restaurant again. You can see here, there's a how-to video, there's a trending video because I'm doing how to smoke a Thanksgiving turkey. So that's really blending two trends, which is kind of a next level move. As you get better at this, you can start to blend the types of videos together. And then you need some sort of project management thing here where you need to find out where you are in production for all of these pieces of content, because if you don't measure it, it won't happen. Like, you have to have some way to put black and white wins and losses down on paper. Like, this video is either made or not. And it's not like a feeling in the wind. You gotta, this can all become very overwhelming very quickly. So you need something like this that shows when things are done and published. The next section of this system is the script, shoot, edit section. And what's funny about this is let's say we had a 2-hour time block to be able to do all of this stuff. I would spend the first hour just on recon style and planning out my roadmap. I would spend 50% of my time on the planning of the thing. I would spend the next 45 minutes scripting, shooting, and editing it. And then the last 15 minutes publishing. Publishing is the easiest part. The planning, again, to being a showrunner, that is the thing that takes the longest. I'm a squeaky wheel here. I'm going to say the same thing over and over and over again. You have got to plan. You have got to prep. You have got to think ahead. You will save yourself so much time on the back end and actually increase the chances that you're successful if you just plan on the front end. I cannot say that enough. So the first thing we talk about is scripting. Now, I always have a plan when I'm shooting any video, and I break those plans into two buckets, either an outline or a script. An outline is what it sounds like. There's the main topic, a couple little bullet points you may want to hit, and that's it. Now, This is great, especially if you don't like reading and you like to sort of freewheel and you got a little bit of a personality to be able to like say something off the cuff that's actually good and entertaining. That's great. This is a great format for you. The downsides of this format are that editing takes a lot longer because then you have to go in and cut out all the bad spots because all the freewheeling stuff you talk about doesn't actually work every time. Maybe 2 out of 10 things work. So you got to edit out those other 8. Scripted is great because you know exactly what you're going to say as soon as you get on camera. You're just reading it off. I use a teleprompter app on my iPhone. I just read it. The screen is there. I read it off, and you could never really tell that I'm reading a teleprompter. The problem with scripted stuff is that if you don't practice the skill of being able to keep talking with your hands while you're reading, to be able to like change the cadences to make it sound more organic, like you're not reading it, then it's going to come off very flat. You're going to have a really big problem with the scripted stuff if you don't actually practice the skill of reading and staying engaging with the way you're delivering the content to the screen. Now, how do we actually make the scripts? Like what elements go into a great script? So we start every script with a wave. That's our version of a hook. Then we have credibility, we have a story, we have a takeaway, and we have a call to action. We'll start with the wave here. This is the hook. And the wave is made up of words, audio, visual, and emotion. So here's an example from High Beam Marketing. You can see what words are on screen here. Email marketing. This video is about email marketing. So if you're interested in email marketing, you're going to stop the scroll and at least give me a second here to just watch. The audio is me talking into the mic you see right here. So you know the audio is going to be clean. People will forgive blurry videos faster than they will forgive bad audio. Fun fact, I had to learn the hard way. The visual element there, you can see that I'm showing something from a website. Now, this is my website, but like you can see the element of email start to show up. Like you can kind of like, I'm interested in this, like what is happening on this screen. And then the emotion piece here, you know, this is the core of everything I believe in. Like, again, emotion, awareness without emotion is pointless because it's just noise in the background. And there's 6 core emotions: fear, disgust, sadness, anger, happiness, surprise. And then those things branch out to all these other different types of words here. So with this email marketing thing, I put the tagline, email marketing isn't complicated. That should make you angry because you should be frustrated by how complicated email marketing has been up until the point that you have seen this video. Now, we've completed the wave. Like you are going to stop the scroll, watch the first 5 seconds, 10 seconds of the video, and then we're going to find out if I want to keep watching. And what ends up coming up next is the story piece of it here. Now, every good video has a story in it. It doesn't have to be some huge Star Wars epic type of story, but this is my favorite storytelling framework. Dan here works for the DAV a lot. He has a great storytelling framework, and if you need that, email me. I'm happy to forward his stuff on to you. He's a great guy to follow on LinkedIn. But this is simple. This is a simple framework that I like to use time and time again. It makes sure that you tell a complete story. This comes from a great writer named Dan Harmon. And it's like this. You, a character, needs something. You go looking for it. You struggle to find it. Once you find it, you take it and you return home changed. So like, think about a bad story here is I, Chandler, am a character. I'm thirsty. I'm going to go look for a drink. I can't find it. There's no drinks in my fridge. And then I realize like, oh, I had poured my last drink into my Yeti already. Now I have to walk back downstairs. And then I feel bad. The lesson I learned is to check around my desk before I leave. And now next time I'll do that. So bad story. I'm not trying to win an Oscar here, but you kind of see how it ends up working out. The next piece of every video, you don't have to put this in every video, but I love to. Going back to that original screen, there's a ton of noise out there. Credibility is how you differentiate why I should or should not watch this piece of content with you. So credibility could be like basically think about that as like, who are you as a character on the show that I'm watching, which is my social media feed. So if you go back to this presentation, you can see at the very beginning, I started with credibility which was I'm a guy that's not just an agency owner. I used to own a direct-to-consumer barbecue restaurant. I was a family business. We figured out a marketing thing that worked. High Beam's driven $1 billion in revenue. Like we picked all those stats on purpose to try to build credibility with our audience because the marketplace, again, is so noisy that you have to give people a reason to listen to you. Why am I going to listen to you? And how do I know that your experience is actually valid and tested and not just something I typed into ChatGPT, and then I got the same advice spat out on the back end of that. That's what credibility is. The takeaway doesn't have to be so implicit every time. You can see the takeaway in this presentation. There's a very clear implement the social showrunner system into your business. The takeaway for how to smoke a brisket is you're going to know how to smoke a brisket. Like there's a very clean recipe for doing that in that video. And the call to action is I always want to have a plan for what I want people watching my content to go do next. Now, that can either be to go watch another piece of content. That could be to click the link in my bio to download some lead magnet so I can get them onto my email list. It could be a lot of different. It could be directly to go buy the thing that you sell. Just don't be disappointed when that doesn't work out every single time, because it's really hard. Let's talk about expectations around social media for a second. Somebody's on their couch at night. It's 8:30. They've had a long day. This is when the majority of social media consumption happens. They are on the couch. They are just scrolling their phone, scroll. Netflix is playing in the background. In fact, Netflix's CEO has come out and talked about how they make content now for the second screen. They don't even think you're watching the content they make. That's why we see all these garbage reality shows on Netflix now, is because they just want something that is pseudo entertaining in the background that you can just have on as noise, because we can't sit in silence, and you scroll, and that stuff's on the background. Now, all of a sudden, you make a video and I'm watching it, and at the end, you want me to stop my relaxed state and get activated and go buy your thing. That's a lot of friction. I got to go find my wallet. I got to make sure my card is in there. I got to make sure I actually want this. Like, what's my shipping address? What's my zip? Like, there's too many friction points with that. So like, you want your call to action off of social media 80% of the time to be very, very easy to do. That's why pointing somebody to go watch another piece of content works out really, really well. That's why getting somebody to just type in their email, because there's nothing new you need with that, works out really, really well. So those are the call to actions I like. I would put one in every single video that you make. Gear is a question that gets asked all the time. Do I need some fancy camera or microphone or whatever? Like, honestly, most of you out there, they sent me the list of who was attending today, and I went and did some deep dive. Most of you just need to make content. Most of you aren't even doing it. And so like, just get the iPhone or the Android that you already have and set a goal to create 100 pieces of content just using that. And then we can talk about some nuances about like, oh, what mic should you use, or should you get a better camera? But you can do everything you need to do on an iPhone. My first 50 internet videos for the barbecue restaurant were shot on an iPhone 5 and edited on a MacBook Air on iMovie. And I have no background in this stuff. I was self-taught in all of it. And the last thing here is kill your darlings. You want to edit things down. You want to make things as tight as possible. And the way I like to think about that is, if the beginning sentence and the last sentence work without all the stuff in the middle, you should cut the stuff in the middle. I can't tell you how many times I've audited people's social media content, and the middle part of the video where they're just trying to fill time is so boring or repetitive, or it's just missing the mark. It doesn't have to be there. Your video is much better if you eliminate that stuff in the middle. So my favorite example is that I was going to share an example about a bear with you guys today, but I had to cut it for time. So sorry, maybe next time. You can DM me. Maybe I'll tell you offline. So finally, you get to the publishing section. We have spent 90% of our time just getting here. The content is finally done. It's finally been edited. It's finally ready to go out. Here's how we publish it. So this is an example. This is how we do it at HighBeam right now. This is not something you should do in your business. It's very contextual to your company and what you're doing and what your goals are. But look at this and sort of extrapolate out how this might work for you. So with HighBeam, we start everything with YouTube. YouTube is our core channel that we really care about. And so this is a interview I did here in Cincinnati with the Cincinnati Business Podcast. And that got published as an hour-long conversation directly to YouTube. Now, to get our biggest bang for our buck there, we ended up breaking that out, and it was published as an audio thing to Spotify and Apple. And then it was written as a blog onto our website as well. So now we've got 1 hour-long conversation, and I've got 4 major pieces of content from it. And then we took out 60-second vertical video clips out of the conversation, and we were able to publish that on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. You know, the good thing about all these platforms playing copycat with each other is that you don't have to make unique content for each one of them. In fact, 90% of businesses probably shouldn't be worried about making unique content for each one of these platforms. They all try to act the same. None of them are innovative. They're all doing the same thing as the other ones. It's just really up to the user base to be like, do I like this platform more than this one? There's some people that really love TikTok. There's some people that really love Instagram Reels. Like, It doesn't really matter which one they like. You just need to post on both of them. Little bonus tip here. You can use a social media scheduler like I use Later. Latersocial.com, I think, is the URL for it, but it's nothing fancy. It just literally gives me the ability to upload the content here on the left side, pick a day and a time, pick all the platforms. And so as you can see here, all the videos are going out on every single one of these platforms, which is a huge time saver for me, because instead of having to spend a bunch of time on Later, Later, I'm able to actually go out and just publish one thing one time and not waste a bunch of time logging into a bunch of apps. So the last story I'll leave you with here is, this is my mom. And like I was talking about, we decided to brand her, I should say, as Mama Lyles. And, you know, this was a family business. So my dad was a business partner, my mom and myself, we all owned the company together, and we worked together day in and day out. And we were a family, and you know how close-knit families can be. Which means that we have to love each other like one step above loving the business, right? Like it was just a little bit more than the business. So like that tension was always superseded by the love that we felt for each other. But we would have really heated conversations. And when I was telling my dad that we were going to spend all this time and money creating basically a whole cooking show in their house, you know, he didn't want to hear it. My dad is an old school guy. You know, he was a recruiter in the Air Force for 20 years. You know, and he was recruiting before the internet, like when people still had to pick up phones with cords on them to call people. And like his mentality was, you know, more old school, like, let's go press the pavement. Let's go knock on doors. Let's go have one-on-one conversations and make it happen. And my thought was, no, the social media thing is like one-on-one conversations on steroids. I can't really define how it's going to work or when it's going to work, but I think this is going to work. And we fought about it. I mean, it was a huge argument. And then basically at the end, I don't know, through my just stubbornness or he got tired, I don't know. He just let it go, and we went ahead with it. And we did it. And we did it for a long time. I would say probably 6 months. And I didn't really have a tangible thing that proved that what we were doing was working until about 6 months in. We were working at our new location. And these two college kids, we were in Lexington, Kentucky, where the University of Kentucky is based. And these two college girls came in, and they saw my mom working behind the register, and they both stopped her and they said, "Oh my God, are you Mama Lyles?" And she was like, "That's a weird thing to say to me in person. My name's Jennifer, but yeah, I'm Mama Lyles." And then they did the craziest thing. It's so weird to me that they did this. They looked at her dead in the face and they said, "Do you care if we get a selfie with you?" And like me and my dad are standing there over to the side watching it happen, and we're just both like jaws on the floor, like blown away. Like somebody wants to take a selfie with my mom, with my dad's wife. Like that's the craziest, weirdest thing of all time, because like selfies are reserved for celebrities. Like that's not a thing that you should want to do with us. But that's when it locked in for me. And that's when it locked in for my dad that, oh, the internet, social media, the ability to create your own television show and distribute it for free on the internet is an incredibly powerful tool that you can use to market your business. And it is a huge portion of this influence flywheel that we have at High Beam Marketing. And I'm happy to answer any other questions about this flywheel as a whole or the influence funnel itself. But I appreciate you guys all joining me today. This has been a lot of fun, and I will open it up back for Matthew to give us some questions.
Wow. Chandler, this was absolutely amazing. I'm taking notes because as we talked about, you know, I worked in fitness. So, you know, giving the different types of videos for content, you know, the writer's block idea is like, wow, so much valuable content. I really feel like I just watched a TED Talk on Marketing 101. So this is awesome. Vinny, Barry, and Elizabeth, I have your questions. I'm going to go through them just from the top. So this one is from Vinny. He's saying that, hey, 90% of my business has been generated from social media and word of mouth. He's doing well. It was a retirement job that has now become a full-time job with 2 employees. Wow, awesome
Wow.
job, Vinny.
Yeah.
Uh, he has something unique, though. He feels like he's at a plateau and he was thinking about franchising as a concept. Would he just be creating competition for himself if he did that?
If he starts to franchise his business?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess it kind of really depends on the type of business that he has and what he's franchising. I mean, restaurants like, you know, McDonald's is the largest restaurant in the world. I think it feeds well over 1% of the world's population every day, and they franchise the hell out of it. So I think it just depends on your business model. At the end of the day, what I think about when you're just talking about social media content, um, think about think about the Marvel Cinematic Universe and follow me for a second. The first Marvel movie that ever came out was Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. It was a wild card idea. They had no idea if it was going to work. They did it, huge success, huge deal. Well, what they ended up doing next was they created another movie, Captain America and Thor and Hulk. And all of a sudden you have all of these individual characters, or let's call them franchises here, that are creating their own movies, aka content, in their own worlds. And then they all come together in a movie called The Avengers, and it's one of the biggest blockbuster movies ever in 2012, I think is when the movie came out. And so essentially they created like think about it like a cinematic universe, for their content. And so like this could be your brand here at the top, and then you could be one of these characters here on the side, and then all your franchisees with their own social media strategies could be their own characters in their own movies on the side, but you guys all connect under this one umbrella, which is the company's brand itself. So generally I don't worry about competition too much. I think there's plenty of business in the world. I couldn't really take on 100 new customers today. I could probably take on 2 new customers this month. So there's plenty of opportunity in the world for everybody. I don't really worry about competition so much. I just try to be better than I was yesterday today.
Man, that's my fitness mindset, actually. It's what I tell customers. So I love that, Chandler. Just a little bit better each day.
That's it.
Another question, and actually, I've been asked this many times. What do you think about the return on investment of getting that special little blue check, for Instagram?
Yeah, I think if the blue check, for everybody who doesn't know, is basically a what's the word I'm looking for here? It's a proven profile. Matt, what is it? It's a
Verification.
verification. Yeah, so
Verification of your.
it was a verified badge, and 10 years ago they didn't give that to anybody unless you were famous. Essentially, like you had to be a professional athlete or a professional, movie star or a politician or something like that. It was essentially the little blue check became a symbol to everybody out there that this is not a fake account. This is a real person. This is actually the movie star or whoever that you're wanting to follow. A few years ago, they opened it up. I think after Elon Musk bought Twitter and stupidly rebranded it as X, decided to start selling the ability to get blue check marks, and there was a ton of interest in it. And all of a sudden, all these social media platforms are basically look, see, look, I do. And they basically copied that. And so now on Instagram and Facebook and all the other ones, you can buy a verification check mark. I think that it's a great idea to do because I've done it myself. I've turned it off. I don't think it's a good idea from this is going to get me so many more views, or this is going to make my business so much better, or it's a small little like 2% improvement on your overall social media marketing plan is that you've added the blue check mark. The blue check mark is pointless if you're not putting out 1 to 4 videos a day and really pumping out content. Like it's not going to matter, but it can be a nice little hedge. It's basically like social proof still. It still has some weight to it because not everybody has done it. To where it could create some more validity for your business and make you look a little bit better. But if you're not, again, it's kind of pointless. It's a minor thing. It's you trying to major in the minors, right, Matt? Where it's like, oh, what type of dumbbell should I lift with? Like what brand of dumbbell really matters? Like, I mean, maybe it matters, but not really. Like what's the core of it is like how many calories you eat, how much lifting are you doing? That's what this is too. It's basically like you need to produce so much more content than you think you do. And yeah, sure, get the blue check mark. It's like $15 a month, whatever, cool. But make 100 pieces of content this month.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for answering that one. And we have another one in regards to, and I think a lot of people that might be having viewed this are thinking the same thing. How do they either get some of the things that you just shared? Like, are we gonna, can we get our hands on that slide deck that you just covered? And then also, is there your contact information? Would you be comfortable sharing that in case people wanted to reach out to you directly for questions, comments, anything like that? Would they be able to get that, Chandler?
Yeah, highbemarketing.com. There's a contact form there that you can get a hold of anybody on our team. You can go on Instagram. and direct message me there at Chandler Lyles, or connect with me on LinkedIn. I love to be there as well.
Cool.
It's just Chandler Lyles. But yeah, we'll send out the PDF version of the slides as well to anybody
Awesome.
that reaches out.
Okay. Thank you for that. We appreciate that. And I know you had mentioned a couple, maybe not a couple, just one content planner. I heard later, was there another tool that you were using in earlier that you talked about in programming the different content and stuff like that as a planner?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I use Google Sheets as just a free spreadsheet, thing for a lot of the planning tools that I made. I use a software called Veed, VEED.io. And that's what I use to caption all of the videos. If you ever watch a social media video and you're like, I wonder how they get those captions on there, that's how I
Mm,
like to do it. There's probably 100 different ways to do it. That's just the one I like. I'm trying to think of other tools I use. I use a website called riverside.fm for a lot of my longer form content that goes on YouTube, or even I have my own podcast called The Highlight. So I do interviews like this on that Riverside platform.
mm,
I'm trying to think if there's anything else I use. That's pretty much it. I edit a lot of movies in Final Cut now because it's basically the fancier version of iMovie, and I never really learned a better version like Adobe or DaVinci or any of those other editing things. I've seen people now, they like to edit videos on their phones with CapCut, or Instagram just
mm.
released their own video editing software. Like, again, back to the slide about the gear doesn't matter. Like, gear doesn't matter. Like, most people on this call, when I went and did a quick rundown and looked at everybody on the list, like, most people shouldn't really worry about gear too much. Just get the phone out, do some recon, pick a style, plan your first 10 videos, shoot them, and then start worrying about getting better, right?
Yeah.
It's the 1% improvement every time. Make this video a little better than the last one. Don't you cannot over prepare. You cannot you can over plan and over prepare, I should say, for this. So just get to doing, and then all of a sudden you'll have, so there's actually a framework I have for learning anything new, and I think it applies to this. So at the top of this wheel, a flywheel, I'm a sucker for flywheels, is input. So input is basically like, go out there and schedule every week time for you to read something, watch something, listen to something on social media marketing. This is a great training for that. This is your bucket, or this checks off that part of the checklist this week. You have upped your social media knowledge. But every week you should be watching YouTube videos, listening to podcasts. Like, you got to be filling the input in your system. Otherwise, you just become a stagnant pond that has no good ideas. And then the next part, when you move around the wheel, is output. You got to produce stuff out into the world. Until you go get reps under the bar, Matt, I don't care. Like, we're just guessing how much you can actually bench. I don't even know when hypertrophy starts, right? Like, we're really in the weeds of fitness kind of, but it's like, until you go produce 10 social media videos, I can't tell you if it's good advice or not. That person that I mentioned earlier in the show, the DAV Patriot Boot Camp alumni, she and I met a month ago, and she had basically made no content. And I said, hey, create as much content as you possibly can for the next month, and I'll give you some advice on what I think that should look like. It was basically just another version of this talk. And then we'll give more specific, nuanced advice and tactics based on the last month of activity of the output. And then the next piece of that, as you come around, is data. Like, what's the actual data that come back? How many views did we get? How many likes did we get? Which one got comments? Which one got link clicks? Which one drove the business forward? Like, how can we start to figure out what content works better than doesn't, and track that somewhere? And then the final piece of it is community. Like, this is a huge group. The Patriot Boot Camp is a huge community. Find 2 or 3 other entrepreneurs here that are on the same journey, maybe at the same stage as you, and be like, hey, we're going to have a group together. It's like group fitness, right, Matt? It's like, if we work out together, it's much easier to not skip the workout, I should say, if you know a couple of other people are depending on you. You're going to post videos to social media if you know 2 or 3 other friends are going to be doing the same thing. And then you guys have a weekly meeting where you check in, share what's working, share what's not, share your data, share the new inputs, share the new outputs. Like, you're sharing everything from the flywheel beforehand. And then finally, it comes back around to the top, and you consume more information, you get more input. But now, because you've gone around the flywheel one time and you've spun it one time, you know better what inputs to go read. If you're watching a video on YouTube, you're like, oh, this guy, this girl, she doesn't know what she's talking about. This guy didn't know what he's talking about. Like, I tried that. It doesn't work that way. But until you go get experience, you won't know if your inputs are good or not. And then you just do it again and again and again. And then eventually you end up like an old man like me in 15 years of spinning this wheel. And it's like, I know more about social media marketing than I should. I worry about what I've forgotten in lieu of knowing all this about social media marketing. But I've been spinning this flywheel for 15 years.
Wow. I love the part about the battle buddy mindset because, as a veteran yourself, you know how important it is to have a battle buddy, someone doing that stuff with you. Also, having your friends and family comment, like, share helps you better get into that algorithm. I had a close group of my, fellow fitness influencers when we were back in the game. We would all comment, share, post, repost our other stories, and it just helps get you that little push. And then, I studied economics, and Peter Drucker once said, what you don't measure, you can't manage.
Yep.
So, you really got to be measuring your outputs and, the success of this stuff. Creating my own cinematic universe, something you just talked about. Our last presenter, Don Parks, talked about AI. So, bringing these two together, I'm curious, how do you utilize AI with content creation?
Yeah, I mean, I use AI constantly. We're in the process of developing. We have a GPT called Coda, and Coda is essentially everything we know about marketing and copywriting and storytelling and everything else. And we're in the process of training it and working with it. And so now Coda is essentially a digital version of me. And it knows everything I know about content, and it knows everything I know about marketing. And so I can banter back and forth with Coda and get a good script written. There was we wrote a video sales letter the other day because I trained Coda on how to write a video sales letter. And I was able to go through this basically like a step-by-step process with that GPT Coda, where I'm like, hey, this is the ideal customer. This is the problem. Like, that thing is asking me the questions as I go, and it's helping me. It's like having another partner in the room. It's like a writer's room. If you know anything about how they write sitcoms or anything, they'll have a writer's room of 4 to 10 people all in there throwing ideas off of each other. And like you just want to have things where you can bounce off ideas. If you expect AI to carry the load for you, though, you're going to be so disappointed. And by the way, AI it's as bad as it's ever going to be today, which means a year from now, it's going to be even better. 2 years from now, I don't even know what to think. If you haven't looked up something called Google VO3, VEO3, just go on YouTube this afternoon, type in Google VO3 videos, and just watch in astonishment and horror as you see videos that are created just from people typing in paragraphs. It's insane. What that means is that what's going to happen is that humans are still humans. Like, we're still going to be humans at least for the next 5 years. So like, they're going to like being able to be authentic and be able to, like, when I say authentic, it's such a terrible buzzword now, and I hate how it's been, co-opted, but like, I'm the only person in the world that can tell the Lyles Barbecue Company story. Me and like 2 other people, maybe a few employees. Like, that is such a unique thing to me. Like, but the structure of the story hasn't really changed. So what I mean by that, if you go back to that storytelling slide that I had there, the Dan Harmon story circle, that is based off of ancient storytelling philosophy. It's Joseph Campbell's Hero with 1,000 Faces. It's basically what Star Wars is. Like, my story and Luke Skywalker's story are the same. Young kid doesn't know what he's doing in the Air Force, starts selling barbecue. All of a sudden, he's thrown into this new world of learning how to sell barbecue in the tent on the side of the road, and now he does through all these trials and tribulations, and now blah, 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 blah. Like, the story is the same. I have to use my own authentic lived thing. Like, you're going to give me more weight as a creator, as an entrepreneur, because I actually did that. If you were like, oh, AI just helped you write an interesting story, like, it's not really helpful for you and your business. If we just had on the podcast a guy named Caleb, he owns a company called Brothers Nuts, and his dad got diagnosed with cancer. And that's where that company came from. Is like, they wanted to create a healthy snack for him, for his dad, to be able to like combat this terrible disease that he had. And ultimately his dad passed away, but him and his brother have carried on with this company called Brothers Nuts. And now they're in over 300 stores. That story is hard earned and comes from his experience, not an AI robot. An AI could write that for you. And I'm not anti-AI. I'm not anti-new technology. But the reason why I'm getting so sassy in this response, Matt, is because people that ask me about AI are being lazy. And I will be as mean as possible right now because I can't see anybody's face, and nobody can actually hit me here in my dungeon basement that I'm in. But like, when you see me at the next cohort, be like, hey man, I heard you call me lazy because I'm addicted to AI. And I think the majority of people that are reliant or worried about AI at this stage of their content creation is that they're just looking for the easy way out. There is no easy way out. The only way out is to get in and do the work. And that is the everything we've talked, like this video is going to be on DAV's YouTube channel. You should rewatch it every week if you can't find other content that you like. But like, go deep on this content, make this system work, and then start worrying about how to make AI work.
Yeah. And you still can't, in my opinion, eliminate the human element out of it because we're still creating the parameters. And, when you type those things into AI and it gives you a response, you're then responding and reacting to it, or you should be, to make the product a little bit better and, really fine tune it. That's where I found,
But even
the
even
best answers.
if you don't, if the thing is that unless you have experience, like, you don't actually know how to judge what the AI is telling you. You don't, it's just presenting information back to you. That's all it is. It's not magic. It's just giving you more information. And unless you have a wealth of experience of like, hey, I've made 100 YouTube videos. Now I'm much like, I know what's BS and what's not, and what's good advice from this chat GPT. I know how to get it to write a better script. Like, it's not a magic bullet. Otherwise we'd all be super rich. YouTube actually just came out and basically eliminated faceless YouTube channels and AI driven content from being
Wow.
monetized. So
Yeah.
we're in the Wild West now. Don't worry. Like, what happens or doesn't happen with AI doesn't matter yet.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
matters is that you get the
Keyword.
base skill set for
Right.
marketing and advertising your business. That's not going to go away.
Yeah. Damn. Well, Chandler, I know we could be talking about this for many, many moons. And for everyone listening, he shared his personal channels. You can reach out to him, LinkedIn, his company's website, all these different ways. We'll make sure to share this video as well. But just a couple announcements to wrap things up. Chandler, really appreciate you being on here. This was awesome. Exciting stuff for DAV Patriot Boot Camp. Our registration is officially open. Go check it out on patriotbootcamp.org. You can register as an applicant, come in, showcase, learn some things as well, take part in the pitch competition, or we're also looking forward to mentors, people like Chandler, great mentors. I think the true power of Patriot Boot Camp is through the efforts of our team and our mentors. Second, our next Caffeine Connect, mark your calendars, going to be July 24th with Jeff Beavis. That title is going to be Build a Business Plan to Fuel Your Success. So another really important aspect of, the business process. Please follow us on social, and thank you all for joining us. Let's build.